Good evening, all friends. Chairman Dr. K. Sivagya Rao, Bhujan Sneha Group of Organizations, and all the dignitaries and friends. I am very happy to note that you have taken up this challenging task of starting a TV channel in the name of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar. On the occasion of Constitution Day, it is a very courageous move considering the current situation in our country. But it is also something that is much required because of the current problems. Journalism in India was once a profession. It has now become a trade and commerce. It has no more moral function than the manufacture of soap. It does not regard itself as the responsible advisor of the public to accept a hero and worship him has become its principal duty. Under it, news gives place to sensation. Never has the interest of the country been sacrificed so senselessly for the propagation of hero worship. Never has a hero worship become so blind as we see it in India today, that too in present circumstances. There are, I'm glad to say, few honorable exceptions are there, but they are too few and their voice is also never heard. Baba Sahib Ambedkar said this in 1943, but I am sure you will all agree that it is true even today. As all of you are already aware, this year marks centenary of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar's news magazine, Mook Nayak. Even before Dr. Ambedkar launched his news magazine, there were quite few Dalit newspapers. The first newspaper was started by Mahatma Phule and Vitthal Vidvanshak, the newspaper that was started in 1888. But they did not last long due to various reasons and lack of revenue. When Baba Sahib started Mook Nayak, after coming back from his student studies from Columbia University, he was only 29 years old, but he knew the importance of having a newspaper that will be the voice of the depressed classes, because no other mainstream newspaper would give them space or cover their problems. This was not only the newspaper or magazine that Baba Sahib started after Mook Nayak. He started Bahishkrita Bharat, Janata, and finally Prabuddha Bharat in 1956. The names of his news magazines were also chosen very carefully by him. Mook Nayak was meant to be the voice of the voiceless. After the Mahad agitation, he started Bahishkrita Bharat. When he wanted to fight for political rights of the Dalits and other weaker sections, he started Janata. When he decided to embrace Buddhism, he started Prabuddha Bharat newspaper. Even time Dr. Ambedkar faced, each time many challenges in running the newspapers. When he started Muknayak, prominent Marathi newspapers refused to publish the advertisement announcing the launch in spite of Dr. Ambedkar offering to pay the cost of the advertisement. For others, newspapers, such announcements would be made free of cost, as you know. The untouchables have no press. They cannot have their own press, and for obvious reasons. No paper can survive without advertisement revenue. Each time Dr. Ambedkar faced the same problem because without advertising revenue, it was difficult for him to run his newspaper. He would use his income from his legal practice to run the newspapers. But he refused to carry advertisements about religious events and activities and anything that resulted in inequality in society. He had to close down his newspapers due to lack of revenue. But thus said, he would prefer not to publish any advertisement than publish socially immoral advertisements. We don't have money, we don't have newspapers. Throughout India, each day our people are suffering under authoritarianism with no consideration and discrimination. Those are not covered in the newspapers. By a planned conspiracy, the newspapers are involved full-fledged in silencing our views on socio-economic political problems. What Baba Sahib said in 1943 is also true today. No news channel will cover atrocities against SC/ST people, even nowadays, today also. Even if there is some coverage, there will be manipulations of the truth and suppression of the truth to show someone in bad light or protect someone. Baba Sahib had been this seen when he led agitations and fought for separate electorates in Round Table Conference. He didn't get much publicity. Or when he was put under immense pressure by the media to sign the Pune Pact and stop Mahatma Gandhiji's fasting and hunger strike during that period. When Baba Sahib Ambedkar resigned from the Union Cabinet in 1951, he personally came out to address the press because he knew there would be biased coverage about his resignation. He said, we have our newspapers, they have their age-old bias in favor of some and against others. Their judgments are seldom based on merits. Whenever they find an empty space, they are prone to fill the vacuum by supplying grounds for resignations, which are not the real grounds, but which put those whom they favor in a better light and those not in their favor in a bad light. Some such thing I see has happened even in my case, said Dr. Ambedkar, out of his personal experience. Many things have not changed in media since 1951, but I hope we will see positive changes soon. I am also happy that you have started your TV channel in regional media to ensure that you reach the masses. Baba Sahib Ambedkar had studied in English medium and he would first write his editorials in English and then translate them to Marathi. He knew he had to speak to the people in the language they understand. And the same thing you people are doing through your TV channels. Baba Sahib wrote in his first editorial of Muknaik that there is no better source than the newspaper to suggest remedies to the injustice that is being done to our people at present and will be done in future, but also discuss the ways and means for our progress in the future. It is also the duty of a responsible media to educate the people, suggest solutions to our problems, and work for progress of the people. I would request all of you to please use this opportunity to build awareness among the people about the policies of the government and whether they are beneficial in the long run to the poor and the depressed classes or not. You have to tell them. I mentioned earlier that starting a news media channel today is a courageous step. As per Press Freedom Index 2020, India is ranked 142 out of 180 countries in freedom of press. It means we are at the bottom of 142. This ranking has been deteriorating for many years. Now it only shows how difficult it is for journalists to work in India. If you are in favor of the government, then there is no problem. You will get advertisements from the government and public sectors. That is why the union government increased advertising rates by 25% in January 2019, just 3 months before elections. That is why the newspapers and TV channels refuse to carry any news criticizing the current government. If you criticize the government, you are removed from the empaneled list of DAVP and will not get a government advertisement. This is what Dr. Ambedkar faced each time he started his newspaper. This is also something that you will face. It is important to have a financial independence if one has to fight for social justice. I do not want to comment on whether there is enough representation of depressed classes in the mainstream of media today. I am not sure how much support you will get from your colleagues in other media houses in case you need help. But you should be aware that you cannot look for protection from anyone else other than yourself and your peers and people who believed in your ideology and Baba Sahib's ideology. Today, the situation is such that journalists and activists are being arrested under anti-terrorism laws. To protect individuals from such actions of the government, Article 32 is the present as a part of Constitution. Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar called this the most important article of the Constitution of India. He said, without it, the Constitution would be nothing. It empowers the Supreme Court to issue directions in cases of habeas corpus and inquire whether an arrest is lawful. But today, if you file a habeas corpus petitions, then the matter may not come up for hearing at all. Please remember that the habeas corpus petition of former chief ministers who were kept under house arrest for nearly 18 months never came up for hearing. When former chief ministers cannot get justice, how will journalists, activists, students, and others will, poor people will get justice? If you ask questions about national security, you are called anti-national. If you try to talk about atrocities against tribals and Dalits, you are called Naxals. A case of sedition can be filed against anyone who are the government, whom the government doesn't like. But that should not stop journalists from asking uncomfortable questions and holding the government accountable. Baba Sahib had said that rights are protected not by law but by the social and moral conscience of society. If there is no anger in the society and when rights are violated, no parliament or judiciary can guarantee these rights which are given in the constitution. In his speech, Baba Sahib said, Constituent Assembly on the 25th November 1949, he said, whether the constitution will turn out to be good or bad depends on the people that will be called to work at the legislature, executive, and judiciary are good or bad. In his same speech, he had cautioned that there is a possibility that in future India may be look like a democracy but actually become a dictatorship. What today we are finding how the dictators are behaving and spoiling the various institutions which are independent. I think today we are slipping into that situation. Baba Sahib also provided a solution to avoiding this problem. First is to believe in constitutional methods to achieve our social and economic objectives. Today, our country faces threats from both right-wing and left-wing extremism who do not believe in our constitution or the methods it provides. Second is to not to go down the path of bhakti and lay all your liberties at the feet of a so-called great man or trust him with power that can destroy institutions. One Irish patriot, Daniel O'Connell, had said, this is Baba Sahib quoted in his speech, no man can be grateful at the cost of his honor. No woman can be grateful at the cost of her chastity, and no nation can be grateful at the cost of its liberty. Baba Sahib had said, this bhakti or hero worship in politics is more in India than anywhere else in the world. He cautioned, saying, in politics, bhakti or hero worship is a sure road to degradation and to eventual dictatorship. Third is to make our political democracy a social democracy based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. Are the people living in liberty today? Even today we see there is no social and economic equality for the people. And the concept of fraternity is being lost when the government itself repeatedly talks about dividing people on the basis of the caste, religion, and creed. We must not allow our democracy or our independence to be lost again. And the media has a very important role in building awareness among the people. Whenever there is a threat to our democracy or our independence, we must be determined to defend our independence with the last drop of our blood, what Baba Sahib said. I would like all of you to remember Baba Sahib Ambedkar's advice to the community. He said, educate, organize, and agitate. As a media channel, you should play your part in taking forward Baba Sahib's message. Educate, make people aware of the reality. The people have the right to know the truth and understand the true motive of the society. Agitation, once people are aware of the reality, they themselves will agitate for changes in the system. This does not mean agitation or hartals, but using constitutional methods to seek change. Only when we use constitutional methods, the changes will be permanent. Organize. Right now, the community is being split into subcastes and subgroups which are being made to fight each other. I can tell you in Karnataka, one example. Now the corporations are filed by BJP government in caste-wise. Corporations are given several communities without looking the financial background of each group. Once people are educated and seek the change, they will organize themselves as a single group. Once the community is organized, then only it can survive. For the community to survive with self-respect, it is important that it have. He said in Marathi, in his speech, he said, one community should have three important things. That is a manasik bal, manushya bal, and arthik bal. Manasik bal means power of intellect or education. Manushya bal means power of being organized or united. Arthik bal means once we have education and organization, then we will gain economic power. We should send a message to the youth that they should be economically independent. They should be economically powerful. They should work hard. And that is most important. Then only they can stand on their legs. Baba Sahib always said that a community should have a particular ideology and implement it for the progress of that community. That is another three things he quoted. And he said in Marathi, Vichar, Achar, and Prachar. What is Vichar? Vichar means having the right ideology. Then Achar means implementing this ideology into action. Third thing, Prachar means propaganda, what you are doing through your TV channels. This ideology through newspapers, TV, social media, it is very, very important, the Prachar. Therefore, Baba Sahib, Achar, Vichar, Prachar, these three things he gave importance. Baba Sahib, I'm sure that he will honor his intellectual legacy as statesman and leader. I'm sure that you and your channel will always work towards representing your belief in Baba Sahib's philosophy and his firm belief in professional integrity. Jai Bhim and Jai Hind.